Social movements are one of the most powerful forces in human history. They are how ordinary people join together to challenge inequality, demand justice, and imagine new possibilities for society. Sociologists define a social movement as a sustained, organized effort by a group of people to bring about or resist social change. These movements arise when large numbers of people share a sense that something in society is unjust or needs to change. They provide a voice for those who may not have access to formal power, like governments or corporations. Social movements are not random events. They emerge from social conditions, economic hardship, political repression, inequality, or cultural transformation. When people recognize shared experiences of injustice, they begin to organize. This process often starts small, with conversations, community groups, or local protests, and can grow into national or even global campaigns. Sociologists study how these movements take shape through several theories. The resource mobilization theory emphasizes that movements succeed when they can gather the money, people, and communication networks necessary to sustain action. The framing perspective looks at how movements shape their message to connect with public values and emotions. And new social movement theory highlights modern movements focused on identity, human rights, and cultural recognition, rather than purely economic issues. Social movements can take many forms. Some are reform movements, seeking gradual change within existing systems like campaigns for voting rights or environmental protection. Others are revolutionary movements aiming to completely transform social structures. Some are resistance movements designed to push back against perceived threats to traditional ways of life. There are also redemptive movements, such as spiritual revivals, which seek deep personal and moral transformation. Every movement goes through stages. Sociologists describe four general phases. The first is emergence, when people begin to recognize a problem but have not yet organized collectively. The second is coalescence, when leaders form, strategies develop, and protests begin. The third stage is bureaucratization, when the movement becomes more formal, often with professional organizers and a structured plan. Finally, movements reach decline, which can happen for many reasons: success, failure, or even integration into mainstream institutions. For example, civil rights organizations that once protested in the streets now operate as established nonprofits that influence policy. Social movements are also deeply connected to social change, the transformation of culture, behavior, institutions, or social structures over time. Some change happens slowly, like shifting family roles or technological innovation, while other change happens suddenly, as with revolutions or mass uprisings. Technology has changed how social movements operate. In the past, activists relied on newspapers, flyers, and word of mouth. Today, social media allows ideas to spread instantly across the world. Hashtags, live streams, and online petitions mobilize people faster than ever before. But digital activism also brings challenges, such as misinformation, surveillance, and the illusion of participation without long term engagement. Social movements are not always progressive. They can promote equality and liberation, but they can also reinforce exclusion and privilege. Sociologists analyze all types of movements to understand how values, power, and culture interact. The functionalist perspective views social movements as a natural part of society's evolution. They emerge when institutions no longer meet people's needs and help restore balance through reform. Conflict theory, on the other hand, sees movements as struggles over power and resources. Those in power resist change to maintain their advantages, while marginalized groups fight for access and recognition. Symbolic interactionists focus on how people develop shared identities through participation. Protests, symbols, songs, and rituals all create meaning and solidarity. History shows that social movements shape democracy, policy, and culture. The abolition of slavery, the labor movement, women's suffrage, civil rights, LGBTQ plus equality, and environmental activism have all transformed social norms and laws. Each movement faced resistance, but through persistence, collective vision, and moral courage, they shifted what societies believed was possible. Social movements remind us that power does not only exist in institutions, it exists in people, in collective action, and in the ability to imagine a more just world. They show that social change begins with awareness, grows through connection, and endures through solidarity.